Hi, everyone, and thanks for coming to Myth, Mischief, and my Misadventure series. Some of you know me. I'm a Cancer Sun, Gemini Moon, and Sag Rising. I have Mercury conjunct Uranus in Cancer, my astrological signature. I became a Hermetician in January this year, retired this year, and now I am in my second career, astrology, particularly Hermetic astrology. This series is to show one how to delineate a chart. It's not a course. Myth, Mischief, and Misadventures about learning to delineate a chart through a life of someone we have all heard or read about. We'll explore general character analysis, love, career, mischief, and misadventure. This is an immediate level discussion, basic knowledge of the planets, aspects, signs, houses, and progressions. But I'm sure if you're a beginner, you will be able to follow along and gain some insight. No books required, no mathematical calculations, just listen and learn. The charts and the graphs used are from the Church of Light Horoscope 2020 program with Astrodynes. Astrodynes are exclusive to the Church of Light organization. These charts will be provided through chat and Google Drive. We have just over an hour for this presentation, so questions will be answered at the end. Please write them down as you think of them. We will look at the astrology and get to the core of who Monroe was as a person. Look at three important players that appear to have some involvement into her death and to see if there is an astrological clue as to the cause of her death. Suicide as declared on her death certificate, or murder as the conspiracy theories continue to this day. Meet the leading lady of the 50s and 60s, a success story on the road to ruin. Marilyn was born into poverty, raised in Los Angeles. At 8 years old, 1934, her mother, Gladys Baker, had a mental breakdown and was committed to a state hospital. Marilyn was the byproduct of an affair with a co-worker in 1925. There was no father in her life. Monroe spent most of her childhood in foster homes and orphanages. She married at the age of 16. She was working in a factory during World War II when she met a photographer from the First Motion Pictures Unit and began a successful pinup modeling career, which led to short-lived film contracts, then followed her movie career. Monroe took her inspiration from Jean Harlow to develop her star image. By 1953, her progressed moon return, she was a rising star with the film noir Niagara, where she developed her trademark makeup look, dark arched eyebrows, glistening red lips, and a beauty mark. She became a sex symbol. The 9:31 a.m. birth time is Rodin rating of AA, birth record in hand. It's very important when you're doing astrology that you have an accurate birth time, if possible. Marilyn has 8 planets in the upper hemisphere. She seeks the limelight and social prominence. She is most visible in the public eye and wants it that way. She has her ascendant at 13 Leo. Her decadent is Leo Sagittarius. Keywords for this placement: improvement, a flair for drama, the enjoyment of being admired and appreciated. With this decadent, one can strive to use entertainment to cultivate friendship, and she did. Her Leo ascendant gives her the fire, the high energy to get what she desires. Her ascendant ruler, her sun, gives her dignity and graciousness. Her sun, 10 degrees Gemini. She's the Gemini Libra decadent. Keywords here are faithfulness and loyalty, unswerving allegiance to a cause, her versatility in her roles and her talents. There is an unpredictable and undependable erratic side of the personality. She was unreliable and restless with this Gemini Libra decadent. This is where she got her troublesome reputation. Her sun in the 11th house in Gemini conjunct her Mercury in the 10th house gives her the ability to memorize her lines, her sultry voice. She was an intellectual that liked to gather and disseminate information. She is not the dumb blonde. She has her moon in Aquarius, 19 degrees. Her decadent is Aquarius Gemini, the key word inspiration. Generosity and kindness is the best quality, and the worst quality being argumentative and fitful. Her moon is her most prominent celestial orb. In Aquarius, she would understand human nature better than any other sign. She would find politics a large point of interest. Her moon in the 7th house tells us how emotionally sensitive she was with her relationships, personal and business, and it is opposite her Neptune. Confusion, deception, addiction. Now we'll look at her angular planets. She has powerful Neptune in the 1st house, the house of inspiration, her creative expression. From Doris Chase Duane's book, 30 Years of Research, the signature for a movie actor has either a prominent Neptune, a prominent Uranus, Mars, and Venus, and Mercury, and an active 1st house and 5th house. Marilyn has Neptune at 22 Leo. The actress, the co-ruler of her personality, Neptune, makes a wide conjunction, 9 degrees, to her ascendant. This gives her a dreamy and playful nature, the suggestive illusion we see in her movies. Her 1st house is a powerful and discordant house in her chart. With Neptune involved with discordant aspects, these stimulate her desire for escapism. It would affect her demeanor, her personal prowess. Neptune triggered her phobias, her fears. She was a known drug addict and alcoholic. Marilyn was the most photographed person of the 20th century, Neptune in the 1st. We have Saturn in the 4th house. This indicates her seriousness in her work. Saturn is the ruler of her 6th house and her need for security in the 4th. Her lunar receptivity, the moon, is in the 7th house. She was impressionable by the powerful men around her. Jupiter is located in the 7th house of marriage, open enemies, lawsuits, and the attitude of the public, and is her 5th house ruler of romance, affairs, and entertainment. This would indicate luck with love and relationships, but with both these planets, Jupiter and the moon, opposite Neptune, indicates her vulnerability to infidelity, to flattery, deception, her lack of self-discipline, living in a fantasy. Mercury is her wit and perception of life is prominent, being in the angular 10th house. It's in its dignity and its close aspect to the sun in the 9th. Marilyn had her own ideas and was ahead of her time. She took a stand and created her own studio, Marilyn Monroe Productions, an action that has later been called instrumental in the downfall of the studio system. Mercury in the 10th house shows Marilyn's intellectual acumen expressed through her public career and reputation, her writing skills, documenting everything she saw and heard in her red diary. Here is her signature as her writer, her autobiography, My Story. This position also gives political acuteness. Her interest in the Kennedys was more than just sex. She has Venus as her most elevated planet and is her most harmonious planet, her sex symbol image, and her magnetism. Venus is the ruler of the 10th house, Taurus, in Aries. Conjunct her MC is in its detriment. Venus is expressed by her determination to succeed in life with Taurus on the cusp of the 10th. She knows that the only way out of her poverty is by her own efforts. It started with modeling, Venus in Aries is self-assuredness and direct. She is a master at marketing herself. It is the signature that says, "Look at me." Marilyn has a fixed T-square in her chart. She has Jupiter at 26 Aquarius, Moon 19 Aquarius, square Saturn at 21 Scorpio, and in opposition, Neptune at 22 Leo, square Saturn. This T-square would indicate low self-esteem. She may have been over-emotional in her personal relationships. She was known to have stage fright. Drugs would provide the confidence during the day and fight her chronic insomnia during the night. Marilyn could create complicated emotional relationships due to a confused reality along with self-deception. Mars and Uranus are in the 8th house of support from others, financially or otherwise, sex and death. Neptune is the ruler. She must have felt she had the support of her friends and associates. Dr. Greenson, her psychiatrist, for one, her housekeeper, Eunice Murray, Peter Lawford, Pat Newcomb, her press secretary, Frank Sinatra, another player in her life. But did they have her best interests at heart? Neptune rules deception. Pluto resides in the house of hidden enemies, organized crime such as the mafia, conspiracy, sorrows, and disappointment. According to Marilyn's Astrodynes, Pluto in the 12th in Cancer is very weak, ineffective, and pretty defenseless against the negative forces of the 12th in her birth map. The house of temptation, psychological problems, escapism, deception, and murder. To see what brings the most benefit into her life, we look at her Astrodynes. Astrodynes are unique to the Church of Light horoscope program and are a valuable tool in measuring one's strengths and weaknesses. They also support the natal chart analysis. Her dominant moon has the most power at 60.85 Astrodynes. When she is up, she is nurturing and receptive to those around her. But when she is down, her moodiness and oversensitivity kicks in. Her moon is highly discordant with minus 27.48 discordines. She is volatile, sensitive, temperamental, and insecure. Her moon thought cells disrupts her sense of well-being into dependence and emotional sabotage. Her moon is opposite Neptune, square Saturn, and opposite her ascendant. Her Venus has the most harmony at 18.33 Astrodynes, her love of being admired. Saturn, her safety net, her most discordant planet, minus 30.86 discordines. Saturn is located in her 4th house of family and home. She was always searching for the perfect home life. Marilyn's 7th house is very powerful at 133.30, but is also discordant at minus 21.52. She does not exert her own power, and with the 7th house of partners, her most powerful at 17.4%. She relies too much on them for her sense of worthiness, always being disappointed in their desire to change her to something she is not, a housewife or the dumb blonde. Her 1st house is also powerful, but look at the discord, minus 32.38. It is her most discordant house, her self-esteem being at the lowest. Her 9th house and Aries, they're both at 19.77 Astrodynes in harmony. This is her planet Venus. She used her female assets to get what she needed, her personal magnetism to reach for the stars. Marilyn's most powerful sign is Aquarius at 133.3 astrodynes, being independent and free thinking. But this air element is in conflict at minus 21.52 discordines. Surprisingly, her most discordant sign is Leo at minus 32.38 discordines. I wonder, was she happiest being on stage, or was her true desire to be in control of her own female attributes, to have more control in the choice and content of her pictures she starred in, managing herself? How unconventional is that, a woman of her times making her own decisions? Very Aquarian. Here you can speculate that the desire for independence and originality, Aquarius, is thwarted by her moon in the 7th house. Her marriages fail because of her desire to be in front of the public, her desire to be seen as a screen goddess, the girl who came from rags to riches, instead of playing the role of the devoted wife. Gemini brings into the picture her rational thinking, having harmonic astrodyne at 14.37, the second position in harmony. Her ambition for her own success outweighed everything else. She used her 10th house Mercury in Gemini, her mind, to get her there. The program gives a look at the life emphasis, and here her most formidable life emphasis in societies is the public houses, houses 8, 9, 10, and 11, through her job, her friends, her belief systems, and her legacy at 38.4%. Next is her companionship houses, 4, 5, 6, and 7, has the least harmony at minus 60.16 discordines. It is her most discordant. Her home life, her love affairs, she miscarried several times. Her workmates, her co-stars, her partners through marriage and business. Trinities, we have association. Houses 3, 7, 11 has the most power at 215.93. Marilyn needed people. She needed a close relationship. She certainly made several attempts for that ideal. She needed friends to share her interests both socially and mentally. Psychism is her most discordant at minus 36.84 points. Houses 4, 8, and 12, which gave her a sensitivity and an acute sense of intuition. But did she listen to her inner voice? Or was she too busy trying to meet the public's ideal of her, doing what others wanted her to do? In elements, she has a nice spread of the elements in her chart, with 4 planets in air, 4 planets in water. She was sensitive, caring. She understood human nature. She was not the dumb blonde as portrayed in her pictures. She had written her own biography at the height of her fame, but was not published until over a decade after her death, 1974. She was intelligent, she was sociable, and a conversationalist. She developed her interest in politics through Arthur Miller. She started her own production company. However, water element has the most discordant, minus 36.84. Her emotions, how she felt, how she thought, it was her downfall. With no earth other than her MC, she needed to learn how to be more reliable, practical, and realistic in her desire to achieve the recognition and the status she was looking for. Qualities, with 4 planets in fix plus the MC and 4 planets in mutable, she was very determined. Sometimes she was too entrenched in the way she looked at things. She wanted to be part of the perfect. Hence, she wanted her part to be perfect, hence the numerous retakes. But she could easily adapt She wanted more serious roles to show the public her real talent, but the studios wouldn't listen. Fix being her most discordant at minus 73.76 astrodynes, making her stubborn, egotistical, and difficult to work with. Mutable being her most harmonious at 2755, adaptable and versatile. The Church of Light horoscope program provides an aspect grid that shows us the power and harmony of the aspects. An exclusive, unique feature. The most powerful aspects in her chart are Neptune opposite the moon, indicating 11.88 in both power and minus 11.88 in harmony. It is her most powerful aspect, her illusions and her delusions. Another powerful aspect is her Sun conjunct Mercury at 11.33. The Sun is in her 11th house relating to friends and affiliations. The aspect shows her vitality, her relationship to authority and with men of influence, her mental interests, her love of politics. Moon square Saturn with 9.66 astrodynes. This is the worst discordant aspect, minus 14.49, and is powerful in her chart. Saturn is in the 4th house relating to home life. She did not find happiness in her home. Next is Mars trine Saturn at 9.29 astrodynes. Mars is in the 8th house. This is a very harmonious aspect. It shows ambition, assertiveness, combativeness, sexual desire, and drive. Saturn square Neptune with 9.22 astrodynes of power and minus 13.83 discordynes. This can make life difficult to navigate. This confirms what we have seen in her chart and her astrodynes. We now have a pretty good astrological analysis of Marilyn Monroe's spiritual character. She was not strong on her own. She needed successful men to make her feel secure. The astro delineation is about Marilyn's last day, August 4th, 1962. There are 3 main characters we're going to look at: Peter Lawford, John F. Kennedy, and Robert F. Kennedy. We'll start with Peter Lawford, who met Marilyn Monroe in his agent's office in 1951 and started dating her. They remained close friends up to the time of her death. Lawford was the brother-in-law of the Kennedys, married to Patricia Kennedy. He was referred to as the family wingman. He was a member of the Rat Pack, starred in many movies in his early days. He died in 1984 of liver and kidney disease. It was Peter Lawford who first set up the clandestine meetings for Marilyn and JFK. Here is a short analysis of his birth map. His birth time is A-rated from memory. You will notice he has 0 degrees on every cusp using the Porphyry house system. A Placidus house system slightly changes the cusps on the houses except for the angles. They remain 0-degree cardinal signs: Libra, Capricorn, Aries, and Cancer. 9 out of 10 of his planets are on the eastern side of his chart. This gives the native a strong will and is in charge of his or her own life. He has a Libra ascendant, making him charming, suave, and sociable, as well as being a Libra as well. Yet Libra is the most discordant. He is the playboy. His first house is his most prominent in both power and discord. His ego dictated his course of action. His Cancer moon gives him a sensitive, intuitive personality in the 10th house. Intense ambition. His moon is in dignity in Cancer. His sun, his ego, in Virgo holds the most astrodyne power. His sun conjuncts Venus denotes a neat personal appearance, a practical and discriminating character, a ladies' man. With his sun, Venus, and Mars in the 12th house, He has a penchant for secrets, behind-the-scenes action, as well as hidden dangers, self-undoing, and clandestine affairs. He was known as a womanizer. Patricia Kennedy divorced him in 1966. Saturn is the ruler of his fourth house of family and security. Saturn is in exaltation in Libra. Marrying into the Kennedy family would have brought him that power. However, it did not last. Saturn is his most inharmonious planet, according to his astrodynes. Saturn rules ambition, discipline, loyalty, politics, and scruples. Is he capable of mischief? With Mercury conjunct Saturn in his first house in discordant Libra, he would struggle with duty before pleasure. Libra energy, was he thinking about his domestic family responsibilities? Saturn rules his fourth, or did intrigue with Mercury ruling the house of hidden secrets and affairs, the house of self-sabotage, win over his role of family man and friend? Pluto in the 10th house at 12 degrees Cancer is just within the allowable Church of Light orb conjunct the MC at 0 degrees Cancer. This is a very political placement, and Pluto is his most elevated planet. He is willing to do what is necessary to achieve his goals and not be ignored. Keywords here are cunning, vindictive, callous, and a cheat. He eventually fell out of favor with both the Kennedys and Frank Sinatra. With 3 planets in the 12th house, Pluto elevated in the 10th, he could easily navigate in a world of politics and scandal. Peter Lawford was a trusted friend to Marilyn. ZZ Zane points to the importance of semi-squares and the sesquisquares in a chart, friction and agitation, respectively. Peter has 6 semi-squares and 1 sesquisquare in his natal chart. Could being a wingman for the Kennedys be easy for him? He could certainly handle a bit of scheming in his life. His most powerful and discordant aspect is planet Mercury, the ruler of his 12th, making a square to Pluto in the 10th, ruler of his second house, his morals and his values. Here is, hold on, hitting the wrong screen. Here is Peter and Marilyn's synastry chart. Peter is in the center. I'm looking to see if Peter could be involved in Marilyn's demise. Therefore, I'm looking to see for any discordant planetary aspects between them. What was their relationship like? Peter was seen and heard in Marilyn's home on August the 4th with Bobby Kennedy. We will see 4 sesquisquares between them. Peter's Sun and Venus are sesquisquare Marilyn's Venus. Peter's Pluto is sesquisquare Marilyn's Jupiter. Peter's Jupiter is sesquisquare Marilyn's Uranus. This is a tense relationship that most likely led to stimulating encounters for them both. The most powerful and harmonious aspect is their Mercury trine Sun. Peter's Mercury trine her Sun. They communicated well. They liked each other. Their most discordant aspect is his Neptune in the house of friends, associates, and dreams. Peter had the Kennedys. He had Marilyn. She knew Frank Sinatra and Hollywood. He used his friends and family to get to his end game. His Neptune is in tight opposition to Marilyn's moon. His Neptune is 18 Leo, 52 minutes. Her moon is 19 Aquarius, 5 minutes. This is a complicated emotional relationship, confusing reality with self-deception. She had known him long before any of the other players in her final months of schemes and secrecy. Could this man have been part of Marilyn's final moments, a willing participant as wingman for his brother-in-laws? An important side note to this story: Marilyn is being closely watched. Because of Marilyn's relationships with Frank Sinatra, whom she dated in the past and stayed friends with, her relationship with Chicago mob boss Sam Giancana, her relationship with the president and the attorney general, her alleged communist husband, Arthur Miller, her many communist friends, including her psychiatrist and her housekeeper. Marilyn's house was bugged by the FBI, the CIA, and the mafia. In Darwin Porter's biography of Marilyn, he quotes, "Her house in Brentwood was bugged like it was the Soviet Union. Marilyn's life is surrounded by intrigue and mischief." JFK enters her life. His chart time is A-rated from memory. Could this man have been part of Marilyn's final hour? Without having to go into any detail into JFK's natal chart, I do want to point out that 9 out of 10 of his planets are above the horizon. A man of ambition, Marilyn had 8 planets above the horizon. JFK has 7 semi-squares and 1 sesquisquare in his chart. There is tension in his life. This chart paints a clear picture. Here you can see the conflict, his strife coming from above the horizon. It is the public life, and his career is most important to JFK. He has Saturn conjunct the MC, elevated, added emphasis to this planet. I may delve deeper into his chart as a future subject for Myth, Mischief, and Misadventure. Here, I'm looking to see if he is capable of misadventure. Marilyn was a magnet for smart, powerful men. Here is the synastry between JFK. His chart is in the center. Marilyn's is on the outside. I have color coordinated, coded the aspects. The conjunctions to each other's Sun, Mercury, and Venus show you the chemistry between them. Marilyn was tuned into politics, and here she was with the most important man in America. When you reverse the wheels, JFK's Sun, Jupiter, Mercury, and Mars are positioned in Marilyn's 10th house of politics. She, with her Aquarian moon, conjunct Jupiter, she had an insatiable thirst for political knowledge. Their mutual suns are in Gemini, 7 Gemini, 10 Gemini, which is about exchanging thoughts and ideas. This is not a placement of idle chatter. The following aspects are within 1 degree orb. JFK's Mercury, 20 Taurus, is sextile Marilyn's Mars at 20 Pisces and is in opposition to her Saturn at 21 Scorpio 26. She got her adrenaline fired up listening to him. Most likely he was a mentor to her. Her element air had the highest score in power. She was in her element with JFK. His Jupiter squares her Neptune. He may have told her too much. Jupiter rules his 3rd house of communication. Her Neptune sits in his 10th house of politics. Highly classified information, carelessly passed on. His passionate Mars in earthy Taurus is in its detriment, is strongly connected to Marilyn's moon by square. It was a relationship of passion, his driven energy and her sympathetic ear. His needs easily satisfied by her emotional sensitivity. Her moon falls in his 4th house. His ascendant trines her moon, Could it be about his ego, being with a beautiful, exciting woman who doesn't expect anything back but a social interaction with a very charismatic man? His Pluto sesquisquares her moon. Power eventually wins over emotion. Marilyn said later, she was just a decoration. On May 19th, 1962, Marilyn sings Happy Birthday at the Gala All-Star Show fundraiser for JFK at Madison Square Gardens. This was probably the first time the public guessed of their affair. Dorothy Kilgallen, an American journalist, wrote, "It was like she made love to the president in the direct view of 40 million Americans." It also marked the end of their interaction. JFK stopped seeing her after this performance. She then turned to Bobby. This was her final hurrah before her life came to a sudden end less than 3 months later. Their synastry shows us 19 parallel aspects between them and one sesquisquare, Pluto, to the moon, to her moon. There is a lot of stimulating energy that speaks volumes. They were strongly connected by their electromagnetic intensity. Could this man have had something to do with her death? She allegedly wrote down their private conversations in her red diary. She was privy to highly sensitive information, namely the Bay of Pigs, the intended assassination of Fidel Castro, Operation Mongoose, the Cold War, the Viet Cong, the Roswell aliens. Now enters Robert Kennedy. There is not one photo of RFK and Marilyn together other than the one you saw in slide 13, the night of JFK's 45th birthday celebration. Here is a brief look at Bobby Kennedy. Could this man be involved in Marilyn's death? He has Taurus ascendant, determined, direct, deliberate. He has his sun in Scorpio, sexy, secretive, and seductive. He has his moon in Capricorn. It is in its detriment, conjunct his Jupiter in its fall in Capricorn, both conjunct the midheaven and conjunct Venus. The Church of Light allows a luminary, his moon at 28 Capricorn, a 15-degree orb for conjunctions in an angular. He can be calculating, cautious, cool to cold-hearted. Mercury is in its detriment in Sagittarius, talkative, testy, a taker of risks, tactful or thoughtless. He has his Mars in dignity in Aries, conjunct his 7th house, confident, competitive, combative, and courageous. His 12th house of mischief and misadventure is ruled by Mars. Mars is positioned in his 6th house of work and service. Conjunct his 7th house, Mars at 4 degrees Scorpio, the 7th house at 5 degrees Scorpio. The 7th house is his open enemies, the mob. He is driven, sexually impassioned with Mars and Scorpio, and would most likely have an explosive temper. The aspect grid is unique by indicating the power and harmony of the aspects. And here we see Mars is opposite his ascendant, is his most powerful at 10.96 astrodynes, and is also his most discordant at minus 13.7 discodynes. This is an intense man surrounded with a lot of discordant planetary potency. He has 4 semi-squares and 3 sesquisquares of friction and agitation in force. There are 4 more oppositions and 5 squares in his chart. Could this man orchestrate her demise? A very quick look at his astrodynes. Here you will see Mercury, his 10th house, and Taurus has the most power in his life story. His thoughts are his career, his reputation and success, and will stop nothing to achieve his goals. It also shows us where he has the most harmony. With planet Jupiter in the 8th house, Jupiter 2496, 8th house 2538, and Taurus at 3624. Here he has an abundance of other people's support and is used to getting what he wants. His most discordant planet is Saturn minus 1923, the 10th house minus 2207, and Cancer minus 2278. Possible lack of sensitivity. His career takes its toll, all about work, far too serious about his ambitions. There is a lot going on in the synastry between Bobby and Marilyn. The following aspects are within 1 degree of orb. His sun is in conjunct her Venus. Maybe there was mixed signals coming from him. His sun is trine her Uranus, an excitement she isn't used to. His moon is square her Venus. Bobby could have been careless with his affections. Did he tell her he would get a divorce? His moon sextile her Uranus. He probably found her excitingly eccentric and bohemian. His Mercury is sextile her moon. He found in her an intellectual companion. Her emotions were stimulated by his intellect, his philosophy, his politics. His Mercury squares her Mars. His Mars is at 4 degrees Scorpio. The ruler of his 12th house is sesquisquare her Mars at 20 Pisces. Lots of adrenaline here, and her Mars rules her 8th house of death. His Jupiter sextiles her Mars. His Saturn is square her moon. His Uranus is conjunct her Mars. His Uranus trines her Saturn. His Uranus is in conjunct her Neptune and semi-square her MC. His ascendant is conjunct her MC. His ascendant is semi-sextile her Mercury, and his MC is semi-sextile her moon. When you put it all together, the chart looks like this. As mentioned, these aspects are within 1 degree of orb. This is a very active chart. The tight synastry is compelling. Can you imagine what the chart would look like if a wider orb of 8 degrees was used? Could she have fallen in love with Bobby? Did she become clinging? She called his office frequently to the point he refused to take her calls. Could he have conspired against her? His natal Mars, 4 Scorpio, ruler of his 12th, making a difficult sesquisquare 135 degrees to her Mars at 20 Pisces. When the Kennedys started distancing themselves from Marilyn, she grew angry and started making arrangements to hold a news conference, a tell-all, in the likelihood that had Marilyn indeed told the world the secret of secrets, the president could have been indicted for disclosing highly classified information to an unauthorized recipient. The Kennedys couldn't risk the potential political disaster. The CIA, the FBI, the mob, even Dr. Greenson also could not risk the disclosure of her secrets. She became a victim of their fears. Dr. Greenson was her trusted psychiatrist since 1960. Marilyn was under psychoanalysis since 1955 until her death. It has been suggested that she was having an affair with Greenson at the time of her death. He too had a reputation and a marriage to protect. This is the death certificate. Death by probable suicide prior to 3:40 a.m. August the 5th. This is a newspaper clipping dated August the 6th, 1962. Let's take a look at what the astrology says for that night. But before I do, another side note. The last weekend in July, Marilyn threatened to go public about her affairs, most likely to Peter Lawford. What transpired on her last day, according to the myriad of documents, books, and tapes available to the public now, is quite informative. Whether it is myth or reality is up to you to decide. The short version of the alleged incident follows. When Joe DiMaggio's son spoke to her that day, he said she was in good humor. I'm going to go through the timeline quickly to give you a sense of what happened on her last moments. On August 4th at 2:30 p.m., Peter Lawford arrives with RFK at her house. They're heard by the eavesdroppers to be arguing. They leave. 4:30 p.m., Monroe's psychiatrist, Dr. Greenson, arrives at the house to conduct a therapy session and asks Pat Newcomb, Marilyn's press secretary, to leave. He asked her housekeeper, Eunice Murray, to stay overnight and keep Monroe company. Greenson left at 7 p.m. 7 p.m., Peter Lawford receives a call from Marilyn in distress and cancels his dinner invitation. 9:45 p.m., an eyewitness saw RFK go into the guest house with two other men, most likely looking for her red diary. An incendiary memoir. Their voices are on record. Many years later, her housekeeper and handyman eventually admitted they saw Peter Lawford back at Marilyn's home, helping to move her body back to the main house. Another witness claimed Lawford, Marvin Iannani, an LAPD detective and Kennedy's go-to security man in LA, is there, along with Pat Newcomb. It was rumored that RFK and Newcomb were seeing each other at this time. Her career soared shortly after this incident, by the way. They are all allegedly at the house. They depart. At 10:35, Marilyn's housekeeper calls for an ambulance and Dr. Greenson. Shortly, the ambulance and Dr. Greenson arrive. The scene in Marilyn's bedroom in her house, not the guest house, is now staged for the police. She is found lying on her stomach, telephone in hand, naked, empty bottles of pills on her bedside table. Strangely, no glass of water to wash down all those pills. Marilyn always wore a bra to bed. One major source of confusion reported was that Marilyn's body was found bruised, raising concerns that she fought off assailants instead of taking her own life. Dr. Greenson gives her a shot to the heart as witnessed by the ambulance attendant James Hall. At 11:45, this is the declared time of death. Early in the morning on August 5th at 12:10 a.m., Peter Lawford, Greenson, and JFK are pulled over for speeding on the way to the airport. 3:40 a.m., Dr. Greenson and physician Hyman Engelbert arrive. Engelbert officially pronounced her dead at the scene. At 4:25 a.m., Greenson now reports her death to the LAPD. 4 to 5 hours later, a lot of mischief and misadventure occurred in that house. Marilyn's house, you can see the guest house adjacent to the main house. The house apparently still holds secrets from Monroe's short time living there. Actress Veronica Hamill of Hill Street Blues fame and her husband bought the house that once belonged to Marilyn in the early 70s. When Hamill remodeled the home, she allegedly uncovered bugging equipment hidden in the walls. But who was listening to Marilyn Monroe? And did they know what happened the night she died? Now we're going to look at Peter Lawford's progressions. When looking at an events chart, you look at 4 charts. The natal is in the center. Just a minute. The natal is in the center. The major progressions are the inner middle wheel. The minor progressions are the outer middle wheel, and the transits are the outer wheel. I know it's going to be difficult to see, but I have done the work for you. I have connected the triggering planets, transiting planets, to the major, minor, progressed, and natal planets, governing the type of event. As per Hermetic Astrology and C.C. Zane, course 10-1, Natal Astrology, every important event of life takes place during the period while a major progressed aspect within 1 degree of perfect is present, involving planets characteristic of the nature of the event, and which rule the birth chart house governing the department of life affected. For an event to happen, there must be reinforcement to one of the 4 terminals of the major progressed aspect by a minor progressed aspect heavier than from the moon, and released by a transit aspect heavier than the moon. So here I am looking for a triggering planet or 2 to one of the 4 terminals governing the event, Misadventure. Peter has transiting Mercury conjunct major progressed Neptune at 19 Leo, transiting Mars, ruler of his 7th house at 18 degrees, sextiles transiting Mercury, ruler of his 12th house, which conjuncts both the major progressed natal and natal Neptune at 18 Leo, and sextiles natal Neptune. Transiting Mercury and transiting Mars makes contacts to his minor progressed Saturn, a square, and an inconjunct. Transiting Mercury and transiting Mars connects by a sextile and trine with his natal Saturn. Transiting Mercury, 19 Leo, semi-squares major progressed Mercury at 3 Libra, which in turn semi-squares natal Neptune at 18 Leo. Minor progressed Saturn squares major progressed Neptune. All 4 charts have a Mercury connection, the ruler of his 12th house of criminal activity, mischief, and Mars connection, the ruler of his 7th house, collusion in the plot. At the same time, he has major progressed Venus, the ruler of his 8th house, in opposition to minor progressed Mars, ruler of his 7th house. These astral connections suggest to me that Peter Lawford was very much involved in Marilyn's death. He may have originally believed it was suicide, got caught up in the betrayal, but not in the deed. Next is JFK's progressions. The progressed planets for JFK has the same 2 triggers. Transiting Mars, the ruler of his 7th house, and Mercury, the ruler of his 12th house, Virgo, sextile each other. Transiting Mars semi-squares major progressed Neptune. Major progressed Neptune squares minor progressed Venus. Minor progressed Venus is in opposition to natal Mars. Transiting Mars comes back to semi-sextile to natal Mars. Transiting Mercury squares minor progressed Venus and semi-squares his major progressed Pluto and sextiles his ascendant. JFK's 8th house of death is ruled by Venus, and Venus is part of this equation. Misadventure is a 12th house keyword, and triggering Mercury is its ruler. His relationship with Marilyn, some speculate as early as 1958, is ruled by the 7th house Mars. I speculate that yes, JFK knew the problem at hand and was aware of the mischief of the day, a cover-up to protect his presidency. Was RFK involved on the night of August the 4th? A reminder that murder is under the planetary influences of Mars, Pluto, and the 12. All the aspects shown are within 1 degree of perfect. Here we have transiting Mars, which rules his 12th house and is co-ruler of his 7th house. Minor progressed Pluto rules his 7th house, and major progressed Venus at 18 Aquarius rules his 1st house and 6th house. Pluto, Mars, and Venus all connect to his natal Saturn, which rules RFK's 10th house, his reputation. Okay, let's start. Triggering transiting Mars at 18 Gemini trines major progressed Venus at 18 Aquarius. Major progressed Venus in conjuncts minor progressed Pluto. Minor progressed Pluto semi-sextiles transiting Mars. Triggering transiting Mars in conjuncts natal Saturn. Major progressed Venus squares natal Saturn, and minor progressed Pluto trines natal Saturn. Here you have Mars, Pluto, Venus, and Saturn connected within the 4 charts: the transits, the minors, the majors, and the natal. Transiting Mars trines major progressed Venus. Major progressed Venus trines minor progressed midheaven, which in turn trines transiting Mars, a grand air trine. Major progressed Venus squares natal Saturn. Minor progressed midheaven semi-sextiles natal Saturn, and transiting Mars in conjuncts natal Saturn. Next, we have transiting Mars semi-sextile minor progressed Pluto. Minor progressed Pluto squares minor progressed MC. Minor progressed MC semi-sextiles natal Saturn. Minor progressed Pluto trines natal Saturn, which now ties in major progressed Venus into this configuration. Major progressed Venus is in conjunct to minor progressed Pluto. Transiting Uranus conjuncts minor progressed Neptune and minor progressed Mercury. Minor progressed Neptune is in conjunct natal Moon and major progressed Jupiter. Minor progressed Neptune squares natal Sun. Major progressed Jupiter at 27:49 minutes Capricorn makes a sextile to natal Sun at 28 Scorpio 0 minutes, and major progressed Jupiter conjuncts natal Moon. Astrologically, this event map speaks loudly that RFK was involved. Private Detective Fred Oshtash, who had bugged Marilyn's house, later revealed he heard Bobby demanding to know where the diary was. "We have to know," he screamed at her. Marilyn was not going to give it up. Bobby's first response was to call Dr. Greenson. Greenson had been set up by Bobby to take care of Marilyn, according to Otash. There were 5 witnesses to Marilyn Monroe's murder. 3 of 5 ultimately, Lawford, the ambulance attendants, Hall, and Lebowitz state that Ralph Greenson was responsible. And finally, we are going to look at Marilyn Monroe's progressions on that fateful day. The planet ruling myth is Neptune, Mischief is Mercury, Misadventure, Pluto. Neptune is the ruler of drugs and alcohol. Triggering Neptune at 10 Scorpio 45 minutes is so active in her departure chart, it is phenomenal. Transiting Neptune squares major progressed Mercury. She said she was going public. Major progressed Mercury opposes minor progressed Mercury. Minor progressed Mercury returns to transiting Neptune. Transiting Neptune squares minor progressed Mercury. Minor progressed Mercury semi-sextiles transiting Jupiter. Transiting Jupiter squares her major progressed Venus, her major progressed MC, and her natal Sun. Minor progressed Mercury trines her natal Sun, trines her major progressed Venus and her major progressed MC. Major progressed Venus in conjunct transiting Neptune, major progressed MC in conjunct transiting Neptune, and transiting Neptune in conjuncts her natal Sun, connecting all this to Neptune. Transiting Sun is conjunct major progressed Mercury and in opposition to minor progressed Mercury. Minor progressed Mercury is trine natal Sun. Transiting Sun sextiles major progressed Venus and major progressed MC. Major progressed Mercury sextiles major progressed Venus and major progressed MC and natal Sun. Transiting Sun squares transiting Neptune. Transiting Neptune trines transiting Jupiter. And transiting Jupiter brings it back to transiting Sun with an inconjunct. Transiting Neptune semi-squares transiting Venus, the ruler of her 10th house of status and reputation. All this activity with her transiting Sun at 11 degrees 39 minutes connects back to her natal Sun at 10 degrees 26 minutes, 13 minutes from 1 degree of orb. And the Sun moves very quickly. Transiting Sun connects major progressed Mercury, 11 degrees 9 minutes, and minor progressed Mercury, 10 degrees 37 minutes. She was going to tell all. There is over 40 planetary connections to this moment in time. Transiting Sun, transiting Jupiter, and transiting Neptune all make contact to her major progressed Venus, her major progressed midheaven, and her major progressed Mercury. Her minor progressed Mercury and her natal Sun. It's extraordinary. By using these 4 charts, you can see how the planets tie together within 1 degree of perfect on this fated day. When you see all her aspects that were triggered by Neptune, it clearly shows that a major event was afoot. They all led back to Neptune. Neptune, the ruler of her 8th house of death. This chart helps you see how astrology at work. Transiting Neptune rules drugs, transiting Sun rules the heart, and transiting Jupiter rules her optimism, maybe her overconfidence and arrogance. Did she think her bluff, if it was just that, would bring Bobby to his knees? It would seem that Dr. Greenson may have given her a fatal injection of pentobarbital to the heart. In high doses, pentobarbital causes death by respiratory arrest. In most adults, death occurring at 2 to 10 grams. We will never know the dose in that syringe or whether he was trying to revive her. There is no astrodata time of birth on there's no data on Greenson or his time of birth. This is Marilyn in one of her last photo shoots taken by George Barris for Cosmopolitan in July 1962. Quote, "I am good, but I'm not an angel. I do sin, but I'm not the devil. I am just a small girl in a big world trying to find someone to love." Her life is on the upswing. A letter was found 50 years after her death to Lee Strasberg, her acting coach, written just days before she died. Quote, "As far as I'm concerned, the happiest time of my life is now. There's the future, and I can't wait to get to it," unquote. There are documents and photos of her seeing a handsome Mexican screenwriter, Jose Bolaños, her frequent escort at the time. There was speculation that she was considering marrying him. She spoke to him shortly after the phone call she had with Joe DiMaggio Jr. This is a copy of a CIA document dated August the 3rd, 1962, that appeared sometime in the early 1990s. Written only a day before Marilyn Monroe's death, reveals that some high government officials were in a state of extreme anxiety over the fact that the Kennedy brothers, Jack and Bobby, had been imparting sensitive information to Marilyn, and that she was writing a lot of it down in her red diary of secrets. I will quote from the document that is circled in blue. You can see here that she had secrets to tell, no doubt arising from trysts with the president and the attorney general. One such activity mentions the visit by the president at a secret air base for the purpose of inspecting things from outer space. 2, the subject repeatedly called the attorney general and complained about being ignored by the president and his brother. 3, subject threatened to hold a press conference and would tell all. 4, subject made reference to bases in Cuba and knew of the president's plan to kill Castro. And 5, subject made reference to her diary of secrets and what the newspaper would do with such disclosure. You can see here stamped top secret and dated the day before she died. This document most likely sealed Marilyn's fate. The American Film Institute named her the 6th greatest screen legend in American film industry. The Smithsonian Institute has included her on their list of 100 most significant Americans of all time. It has been 60 years since her death, and she is still an object of fascination. But ultimately, it captures nothing of her on-screen brilliance, her bubbly personality, or her deeply human insecurities she's struggled with all her life. May she rest in peace. Thank you for listening, and if you're able, please send a donation to the Church of Light so that talks like this can continue to reach out far and wide. The Church of Light mission is to promote universal welfare through the teachings and practices of the religion of the stars as taught by C.Z. Zane. Vega, if you could please